This is day 2 of the paragraph writing activity, integrating art into the classroom. Yesterday, to review, the children created an object with Play-Doh and then they drew them because many times the Play-Doh hardens and it's not as useful the next day. They also created titles for their project. So, Lana, will you read yours, please?
The Blue Bell.
And Taylor, would you read yours?
Lucas Leaping Lizard.
That's excellent. Taylor is a 4th grader and Alana is a 2nd grader. So they're ready to write. They have their name on the paper immediately to keep their writing personal. And I want them to write one sentence describing their object. So could one of you raise your hand and tell me one sentence you could write about your object? Alana.
It has blue petals.
Will you write that right here? That is excellent. Taylor, can you think of a sentence you could write about your critter?
Would Lucas likes to jump be something?
That's very nice. At this point in the lesson, they should have each a red and green writing tool. I recommend in the primary grades to use a colored pencil. And in the intermediate grades, the Skinny Mr. Sketch markers are perfect. They love the scent. This will help them have the conventions in place for a sentence. But first, what I want from Lana is if you'll place your pencils down and markers, I'd like to have you read your sentence to us, Lana.
It has blue petals.
Oh, that is very nicely done. Very nicely done. Taylor, would you like to read yours?
Yes, please. Lucas likes to leap.
And I like that. I like to catch you after you've written a sentence. Now, what color, girls, look at me, what color on a traffic light means to go?
Green.
All right, so I want you to trace the first letter in your sentence, but make sure it's a capital first. So if it isn't a capital, you better fix it. But trace it with green, and then put your green back down. We'll be finished with it. That tells the reader that you are starting a new sentence and gives them a break to put the thoughts together. Thank you. Taylor and Lana, that was absolutely perfect. Well, girls, are you ready? What color means stop on a traffic light?
Red. Red.
All right. Will you trace the ending punctuation or the period with red? And that tells the reader to take a breath. I'm starting new. Lana, will you reread your sentence for us?
It has blue petals.
Okay. Now, what I'd like you to do is right after the period, I would like another sentence about that flower. Do you have an idea what you want to say? Maybe you could tell me it and then we'll write it.
It has a green stem.
Beautiful. Right after your period, will you write that? Now we're going to differentiate for 3rd grade and higher. When the children are ready to add multiple sentences, we don't simply want a list of information. We'd like to have them to learn to elaborate. So Taylor, will you reread your sentence for me, please?
Lucas likes to leap.
Okay, now if I highlight Lucas on her paper, she may give me a list of information about simply Lucas, which is not going to be elaboration, those will be extensions. What I'd like her to do is the reader would expect to hear more about him leaping. So I underline or highlight to leap. And she's going to give me another sentence or two about it leaping. So right after that period, Taylor, will you give me a couple more sentences about Lucas's leaping? How he leaps, why he leaps, what he's doing while he leaps.
The reason that he likes to leap is because one time when he was in a swimming meet, he had to leap off the block to get to first place, and that is where he first learned that he loved to leap.
Why did you write that? That's very nicely stated. And you could skip lines if it'll give you more room. Okay, now, back with Lana. 1st grade, I would not work on elaboration right in the year, but later in the year they could try something like Taylor just accomplished with elaboration. But with Alana in the beginning of 2nd grade, I just want to hear that she has complete sentences in her writing. So Lana, will you start with it has blue petals and read both sentences for me again, please?
It has blue petals. It has a green...
What? You caught yourself. I like that. So maybe you could erase the period and add the word stem. Excuse me. Often writers have the ideas in their head, but forget that they haven't written them on the paper. So reading aloud is an excellent strategy for catching convention and errors in their writing. Would you like to read that again for us, Lana?
It has blue petals. It has a green stem.
Now that's perfect because you took a breath. Now, could you trace the first letter in that sentence with green? Again, to let the reader know you're starting a new idea. And then, of course, the ending punctuation. What color, Lana?
Red.
I knew you knew it. Very nicely done. Do you know anything else about that flower? Like the petals. You told us about the petals. You told us about the stem. Do you know anything else about that? That is very clever creation.
The stem is 2 centimeters long.
Whoa, girl. Why don't we skip a line and write that down further? Now, Alana is actually starting elaboration. Elaboration makes writing so much easier. Rather than come up with new ideas, the child focuses back on what he wrote previously and extends or elaborates that idea to make it more interesting for the reader. I love your writing, Taylor. It looks like you've started to spell a word and then left a space. That's a wise decision to make. Well, were you interested in how to spell a word? Were you worried about it?
Yeah.
Okay, so what was the word?
Wild.
Wild. Okay, what I want you to do is our first resource is our useful words list. So look on the back of your vocabulary word, search it alphabetically, and if it's on there, then you can fill it in. Does that help? Mm-hmm. Alana, I noticed that you've already made 2 attempts on our Take a Try page. Very nicely done. I like that you made 1 attempt and you weren't sure it's right, so you made a second attempt. So what I'd like to do, may I borrow your pencil, okay, is stem or stam. Which one sounds closer? I think it's this one. But do you mind if I spell it the way I've looked it already up in the dictionary? Is that okay if let's write it here? Then you can have it as a resource whenever you write. Because then when this page is full, Alana, you're going to write it in, you're going to put it in your vocabulary book. Okay? So every time you have a word from now on, I want her to try to spell it twice while I'm busy with other students. Then as I move around the room, now if Lana's sitting there waiting for me, I'm definitely not going to stop and help her. But she knows that she has to continue with drawing or punctuation or some other part of the activity. And if I see her busy, I will circle her closer approximation and spell it correctly next to it. Then she can use it as a resource. This helps those children that are perfectionists and are uncomfortable and have problems writing just because they want it to look correct. Lana, I love the way you copied it in that space when you were finished. Now, your writing is beautiful, Alana. Will you please read the title first at the end of our lesson today, and then read the sentences that you wrote about the bluebell. So, very nicely, will you read the title for us?
The bluebell.
And now tell me what you wrote about it.
It has blue petals. It has a green stem. The stem is 2 centimeters long.
And I love the way you did that. Could you color code the last sentence for us? Now, children that have no trouble with punctuation and seem to have acquired the sentence writing ability, I don't need them to color code, but many of them enjoy it. And they like to continue the activity, but it isn't mandatory. Another convention strategy is to use their bodies and an auditory cue at the end of the sentence. For example, Alana is going to read her sentence. She will stand at the beginning of the sentence to show the reader that she has a capital letter that's taller than the other letters, and she will end her sentence with a period. And both of these pieces will remind her of the conventions at the beginning of a sentence and the end. So, are you ready, Alana? Okay. Would you stand and read your first sentence? Because it's a capital letter next to your chair. Thank you. And read one sentence.
It has blue petals.
I love that, Alana. Very nicely done. And you do have a capital and you do have a period. How about your next sentence? Would you read that for us?
It has a green stem.
Woo, baby. And how about number 3?
The stem is 2 centimeters long.
Very nicely done. Thank you, Alana. That was absolutely perfect. Out of a 2nd grader, I expect 2 additional sentences for each sentence that they write.
Ms. Robinson, I'm having a little trouble spelling the word notice undecided.
Well, have you already searched your useful word list?
Yes.
And it wasn't on there. Okay. Well, let's take out our Take a Try page. And what I want you to do is to write each word twice. think of the different ways you would spell it, and then I will help you after you finish your choices. Okay, at this point I move around the classroom assisting other students who may be having issues with spelling, or they think they're done, and I help them with the elaboration element. Back to Taylor. Taylor has tried 2 ways to spell it, and I think that the first way undecided was her closer approximation, so I very quickly tell her that the first one was better. And because I've looked it up, Taylor, already in the dictionary, do you mind if I spell it next to it for you? Okay, decide. I don't want her to feel that she's wrong. I love her attempts. And on the second one, you perfectly spelled it the first time. Now, as I write it, Taylor's going to begin to notice something. I'll point out, Taylor, look at this. Your first attempt has been the closest each time. So maybe you could go ahead and try to spell it that way if I'm unable to help you at that time. Okay? At the end of the day of writing, I would like to have the children share. They often catch mistakes they've made, and they share with others so they can hear how each idea was elaborated. During this time, I also want to reward Taylor for the kinds of word choices she's been making in her writing. I would recommend using marbles in a plastic cup, anything auditory so the children can hear, because as they're focused on their writing, they often don't know what I'm rewarding them for if it's a silent piece. If you want their love forever, try M&Ms in a cup once a week. So Taylor, as you're reading your writing, if I hear a word that's very precise, or a word that I know that a reader would really enjoy at 3rd or 4th or 5th grade level, I will put an M&M in a cup.
Lucas likes to leap. A year ago, he was in a swimming. While he was on the diving board, he noticed that if he was going to win, he was going to have to leap off the diving board.
Very nicely done, Taylor. Can I stop you right there? Because I want to explain. Okay, if I had other students in the room, I'd ask, who can tell me a word I gave her a reward for? Taylor, do you know one of the words I gave you points for?
Swim meet?
Swim meet, very precise. Now, what would have given you maybe 4 M&Ms? Do you have an idea how to make that more precise? Like, do you know a name of a place, or a name of a city, or a name of a town?
In a swim meet at McDowell.
McDowell, or you could say McDowell swim meet, and that would have been excellent, and I would have given you 4. Very nicely done. But you had an above grade level vocabulary word in there. Do you know what word was a high quality word that got you 2 points already? You may not think that it's a high quality word because you're used to using it, but most children would say, he saw that. Did you see a synonym that you used that was more precise than saw?
Noticed?
Yes, very nicely done. So I gave you 2 points for the quality of the word choice. Very nicely done. At the end of day 2, they would share, and then we would move on to the conclusion, which will occur on the last lesson.